Rachel, welcome. Great to have you in the Hospitality Stories. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this. So it's very surreal knowing that I was a student at your university a few years back, and now I'm speaking with you to then feature in one of your YouTube series.
Well,
So.
it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you. I'm trying to get guests from no matter how many years they've done in industry, and I wanted somebody who is a relatively recent graduate. So we want to hear more about your story, and this is all about your story. So please tell us a little bit about your hospitality background.
Okay, so I started my hospitality journey when I went to study international hospitality management at the University of Brighton. So before then, I was actually in the leisure industry. I was a lifeguard and a swimming teacher alongside school and college. Working in the leisure industry, I loved that element of guest interaction. And I remember one day when I was coming up to finishing my A-levels, looking through the degree course booklet that your colleges give you and schools give you, and actually stopped at international hospitality management. And I was with my dad at the time, and he turned to me and said, "Rachel, I think you'll do all right in this one." So that was enough inspiration for me to choose it as a degree.
I would say more than all right, Rachel, when we look at what you have achieved in 4 years, but I don't want to give too much out. So there was
Yeah.
no sort of connection before you choosing for a degree, no relative that had worked in the industry or anything like that?
No relatives in the industry. We're all my siblings are leisure based. My dad was in the police force, so yes, we've got that element of serving, but no, nothing in hospitality as such. So I was the first, and hopefully there'll be many more in the Stevenses that go for hospitality.
I hope so. What is your most memorable moment? And there are always plenty of moments, but your most memorable in hospitality management, can you think of one?
I've had so many, and I've been blessed with the teams who I've worked with and learned from across all operational departments and the hotels I've worked in. I've always said that you're only as good as the team of people around you, and I really do stand by that. So whenever I see any of my team members achieve or progress within their roles or within the department, it's those moments which stick by me as I know, as I see my role now really in facilitating that environment where my team can excel and succeed in what they do. For me personally, I think when I was first starting out as a trainee manager, I remember having to deal with a particularly challenging incident as a duty manager at Tilney Hall.
Okay.
And I remember coming into work the next day and finding an envelope on my desk addressed to me as Rachael Stevens, assistant manager. This was whilst I was still contractually as a graduate trainee manager on paper. And it was a personal thank you note from the Deputy General Manager commending me on how I'd handled this particular situation and thanking me for my work. And that was memorable for me personally as after going through my journey on a hospitality management training program, it was one of those moments where it was clear that I was becoming a hospitality manager myself, and that was almost the culmination of all my hard work on this program that I'd done with Elite Hotels. So
I think that's an important lesson when some of our students become leaders themselves, to not forget to recognize when somebody has done a good job.
Yes, definitely.
So now you are very humble, and you haven't told us when I asked the previous question about your hospitality, the first one about the hospitality background, you didn't tell us everything. So I have to say that when you were a student, you were one of maybe not one of the highest achiever. I think you crushed every single award we had, and you won an award with our debating team back in 2016, if I remember correctly.
Much to my surprise, yes.
Which I had the pleasure of mentoring that team. It was great fun, and I think from that team we have lifelong friends from everybody from that team. But this brings me to having achieved success, and hopefully you'll tell us a little bit more about the industry success as well. What is it that makes your day? Think of your productive days and think of your most productive day. What are the elements, those key elements that make it very productive for you?
I think so. I've always had, whatever department or role I've gone into, I've always had my own personal goals, and I think that's really important for all your students watching this, that they set their own goals and they take responsibility for them and drive them.
Yeah.
I think with the industry itself, no 2 days are ever the same, so which naturally always keeps me enthused and productive, and there's no other job where you're constantly learning with each new day and every new situation that's presented to you. You learn a lot of theory-based knowledge at university, but situations that come up when you're in the industry, there's no universally correct response to a situation. So what you think might necessarily be a way you'll handle a situation will always differ. So it's important as well, just to acknowledge that you'll always be learning, whether you're at the start of your career, middle of your career like myself, or when you've hit these sort of higher statuses in the industry.
I'm going to fit in a question which has to do with what you just said, and that is, if you think back, because it's relatively recent, your degree, what did it give
Yeah.
you in order to be able to deal with the situations, and what do you think, what do you value the most, having done the degree in international hospitality?
What I value the most is the level of self-awareness and self-reflection and continuous professional development that's drilled into you. I remember doing all the reflective statements in the placement projects and in other modules throughout my time at university, and you don't appreciate at the time how much it's actually opening yourself up to, okay, this is where I want to be, this is what I need to work on, this is what I need to focus on, and on top of that, you're keeping on top of all the market trends, insights, what's actually going on in the industry, and that is invaluable for when you're out in the industry. One thing I always say is when you graduate, you no longer have your lecturers coming to you with recent market trends or things that are impacting the industry. It's now your responsibility. As soon as you graduate, it's your responsibility to keep on top of industry trends, what's going on, what's going to impact your line of work, your overall strategy. And I think being at university taught me to really appreciate that and keep going with that afterwards.
So the advice is keep your research skills honed, people.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Now, you have achieved not only in your place of work, but you are a proactive person who has involved extensively with the Institute of Hospitality. So can you tell us a little bit about your involvement with them?
Yes. So I'll start all the way back from the beginning. So I first became involved with them, like you say, when I was a student myself at Brighton University, where I was benefiting from being a student member. I then attended the Passion for Hospitality event and took part in their debating competition back in 2016, where I had the opportunity to meet and network with other individuals and industry professionals. It was through that I then got involved with my local Sussex branch committee, which I very recently, back in June this year, had the privilege of being appointed chair of. So I'm very proud to say we've managed to sort of turn around what was becoming a quiet branch, with a focus on well-received interactive educational content and essentially a valuable resource for support for many individuals, both in our industry and those considering joining it. Yeah, and then as if the Institute didn't have enough of me already, my efforts have since been recognised, and I've been invited to take a seat on the Board of Trustees also, which I'm incredibly proud and humbled to be a part of, because I'm very much see myself still at the beginning of my career, and people on this supervisory board are a lot further down the line than I am. So I'm very humbled and proud to be a part of that.
I think you should be proud, but you should also not underestimate what you bring, and you do bring a lot. And I'm proud to be a fellow of the institute, and I'm proud that they actually have opened their eyes and they have brought a young person in the board of trustees. because we do need, you guys are the seeds of the future, and we need to make sure that there is a good and positive future. So, and I'm grateful to you for these things are all, based on volunteering your own time. So that's another lesson I think for my students. Wherever you can, help your local community, get involved, and you'll get so much more out of it than you might give in. That's fantastic. Now I want to bring us into the topic of, there's a lot of talk around how, this particular COVID scenarios have changed how we interact with people. Here we are with a digital platform. So I want to pick your brains as to how perhaps this new digital era is affecting maybe training with your staff or even the customer service. Are we entering a new digital era, and is it affecting your place of work?
I think absolutely. So as with most things at the moment, with the current situation we've been given, that there's no other option really but to look at alternate routes. And I do think it's an ever evolving state of online learning as well. I think the situation with COVID has just ramped up the speed of which businesses are having to reposition their business models and adapt. Training certainly being one of them. So we are seeing a lot more sort of online training platforms. Courses being delivered virtually now rather than in person. Whether or not I think there's more value to it being that way rather than in person, I'm not too sure about. I do think there's a lot of value in sort of the practical element of training, and that will never go away in our industry. But yeah, it is a shame with some courses that we've now turned to the online platform, I have to say.
So
but yeah, customer service wise, I think, well, now when you go to restaurants and you're told to sort of take a seat and scan your QR code and that's it, you order from the table, and the only interaction you have with people serving you really is when they're coming over to put the plates down for you at a safe distance. So yeah, it's all yeah, so we've always tried it, yeah. I think particularly at our place of work, we are a luxury country house hotel, and we will never ever get rid of that element of guest interaction and service. It's just doing it in a safe manner, be it wearing a face mask or at a distance. Yeah, we would never move everything solely online, because there is so much value in having, if people value that interaction, there will always be a need for that face-to-face interaction, and that will never go away.
We may have touched on some of already on the big issues that are facing hospitality. Do you think there are any other big issues? What do you think are the 2-3 biggest issues that hospitality is facing today?
I think it has to be the uncertainty surrounding COVID. I didn't really want to bring this up too much because it's a bit of a dampening situation, but I think the lack of clarity and action from the government, and the reality that hospitality is being scapegoated due to a rise in the R number. I mean, I saw a statistic this morning actually with multiple COVID-19 outbreaks for the last 4 weeks, and we are actually only on 4%. So it does just seem incredibly unjust, all these further tightened restrictions. And yeah, given all the hard work and investment that's gone into making our hospitality venues COVID secure, it does seem a bit unfair. But that said, I am a firm believer that the future is bright for our industry, and we've got to plan and push forward with strategies to build consumer confidence again, build the industry back up. And actually, for the students that are watching this, it's an exciting time for you guys, because it will be the young people now that are studying who will have that task when entering the industry of doing so, of building that back. So
I think it's an important point to make to our students and the listeners out there, that governments and politicians have their own agendas. So when I hear some politicians saying that certain sectors aren't viable and people should retrain into what they consider viable sectors, then what I say is, well, thank you very much for this. I realize that you did exactly the same with bankers. They didn't. So it's not funny. It's interesting. I was going to say funny, but it's interesting how different industries are treated differently by the government. And that's what we need to keep our critical thinking and our critical analysis, to know that these decisions are made there because they have their own individual agendas and political agendas. But there are a few people who are lobbying out there, a few organizations. So we're hopeful for the future. And with that remark, what is the most positive thing? Is there anything positive that emerged because of the current situation for hospitality, in your view?
Definitely. I think with any situation that happens, you've always got to fight. There will always be some sort of positive that's come out of it. I think the industry has had to review a lot of policies and procedures on areas where previously it might have been becoming a little bit complacent, which has brought a lot of positive change, be it on health and safety standards or cleanliness. I mean, our housekeeping teams are now at the forefront of the operations, whereas previously they were almost sort of the unsung heroes of hotels. So it's great that they're getting the recognition and credit that they deserve for all the work that they do. And I think really the fact that we've seen so much kindness as well from people within our industry and fellow colleagues. There's so many amazing examples of people just selflessly doing the most wonderful things, be it hotels sheltering the homeless, hospitality workers raising money for the NHS, and charities like Hospitality Action. The list goes on, and I think it's that sense of, right, we're all in this together, which has brought a real hospitality family feel to our industry. And we're seeing businesses come together and collaborate on work now solely for the good of the people. And it's just fantastic to see and continue to keep seeing as we all navigate our way through the current situation. So there's always a positive.
Thank you. No, that's great. And a reminder that, once again, we should keep together. We should work together to try and navigate these treacherous waters, really. So last question, I won't give you too long. What advice do you have for young people graduating with a hospitality degree?
Okay, I've got a couple of pieces I'd like to share. I think take some time to work on your own development every day. It's quite easy to get absorbed in your own little bubble of work, but it's equally important to keep an eye on the bigger picture. Like I said earlier, when you leave university, no one will be sending you links or journals with wider industry research and trends. And it's important you keep an eye on that and not just what's going on with your day-to-day roles. So first thing I would say is sign up to some industry publications to keep you in the loop of what's going on, be it e-hotelier, the caterer, boutique hotelier. There's so many good resources out there. And then, of course, you've got the Institute of Hospitality membership, which again hosts many online workshops and webinars and supports with great educational material throughout your careers. I would say never stop learning. It's important as an aspiring leader and manager to acknowledge that and just continue with your own growth and self-development as you go. You'll quickly learn that you learn from everyone in the industry. That's your colleagues you work alongside, those that you report into, those that report into you. You will learn from every single person. I think that's really important to remember that as you go forwards with your careers. Start as you mean to go on. So write to hospitality businesses, make people get to know you, ask for work, shadowing opportunities to develop your skill sets, and most importantly, don't give up. So if the thought of doing or trying something new scares you when you first graduate, I would just advise you to get used to that feeling of fear and do it anyway. Because as long as you're continuing to grow and push out into the world and stretch your capabilities and continue to take new risks to achieve your goals, it's important to remember that you'll always experience some form of fear, and the only way to get rid of that fear is just going out there and doing it anyway. And I think if you take that mindset with you, you'll maximize your full potential and you'll go far. So that's my advice.
Fantastic advice. I mean, you guys have a lot to take from this, just from that one question. Rachel, it's just been fantastic to talk to you. It's great to follow, hear about your your career and the milestones you have achieved in such a little time. So keep on rocking the world, flying the flag high, and I really hope we're going to see each other face to face soon again. Thank you so
Yes,
much, Rachel.
absolutely.
Take care
Thank
of
you very
yourself.
much. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Goodbye.